Hi, I'm Heather Holtz-Knudsen, CEO of H2K Labs, and today's host of the Revenue Room podcast, where we talk about accelerating revenue, driving profitability, and fueling enterprise value by leveraging data, digital, and AI. But before I kick off with our next amazing guest, I'm excited to announce Revved Up 2025, which takes place February 25th through the 27th in my beautiful hometown of Sarasota. This is an invitation only gathering and a brain trust for CEOs and their revenue critical C suite teams who are leading multi sided businesses such as media, events, data information services, marketplaces, and professional networks. I launched Revved Up for several reasons. I'm very passionate about our industry, and I really want us to write the rules instead of relinquishing business value over to big tech platforms. With AI now a permanent fixture, it's crucial to transform these threats into opportunities and to define the rules of the game ourselves rather than handing over revenue, profits, and enterprise value to someone else. And the second reason is that there's clearly a gap in the market when it comes to events for us. And I want to fill that gap because we need new C suite faces in the room and we need a future forward serious discussion about how we are going to do it. Sorry, I'm going to say that again. The second reason is that there's clearly a gap in the market when it comes to events for our industry, and I want to fill that gap. We need new C suite faces in the room, and we need future forward serious discussions, and we need cross industry and cross functional collaboration. We have terrific speakers lined up, including Anna, today's podcast guest, as well as Matt Riley, CEO of Fusible, Lynn Schlesinger, CXO of Forbes, Brendan Noon, Head of Media and Entertainment at AWS, Constance Sayers, President GovExec, Sarah Personette, CEO Puck News, and many more. So if you're a CEO or C-suite leader interested in proving how your business extracts maximum financial return from your most valuable assets, people and data, Revved Up is for you. Visit h2klabs.com/revved up with two V's to learn more. All right, so here we are. Let me introduce Anna. Today, we're joined by a true pioneer in the data science community and a serial entrepreneur who's been making waves in the tech industry for over 2 decades. Anna Anisin is the founder of DataScience.Salon, the most diverse and leading data science community and event series in the industry. Her mission? To eliminate bias in both recruitment and algorithms while empowering diversity and innovation in data science, AI, and machine learning. Named a tech industry insider by CNN for 3 consecutive years, Anna's entrepreneurial journey began at just 16 years old. She's since achieved multiple successful exits, including her role as CEO of FourSync and her co-founding of Passare, which became the #1 collaboration software in the funeral industry. Currently, alongside running DataScience.Salon, Anna leads Formulated By, a boutique B2B marketing firm that served over 100 major clients, including AWS, IBM, and O'Reilly Media, who will also be at Revved Up. Her expertise in leveraging data for growth has earned her recognition as a LinkedIn top voice and a place on the Forbes Business Council, where she regularly contributes insights on AI and marketing strategy. With Anna's unique combination of analytical rigor and marketing expertise, Anna has become a sought-after voice in the intersection of data science and business growth, which is really where we want to be when we at Revved Up. What a great sweet spot. She's particularly passionate about using data-driven approaches to exceed business objectives while maintaining a strong focus on diversity and ethical considerations in AI development. Please join me in welcoming Anna Anisin to the Revenue Room. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for such a nice, wonderful introduction.
Oh, you're so welcome. We're so excited to dive into what you're doing. I'll be honest, when I came across you on LinkedIn and I saw your profile, well, you're in Miami, so we're neighbors. And what an interesting concept of the data science salon. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, definitely. So Data Science Salon really started in 2016. So been around for, gosh, quite some time. And just started as really a forum or salon, right? Like for folks in the industry to really share what they're working on, so they can help each other really be successful in solving those problems that they're trying to solve in data science, machine learning, and AI. And it's really taken off since then. We launched actually the first event in Los Angeles, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know that. And we were featured in PC Mag right after that. And that's how the brand took off, and now we have 100,000 people in the community, and we're
Okay.
in, all over the country, and we are known to be one of the most diverse communities out there. And it's been really awesome to grow that and be part of that, and just meeting all the amazing speakers, people that are part of this community. And also, the big mission behind it is to really get rid of bias, not only in algorithms, but just in the industry. So that's why we always try to get as many women and minorities as speakers, and just try to do things a little bit differently than other folks in the space. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of Data Science Salon. And we just had our last in-person event this year at Google HQ in San Francisco, and then we will be in Austin in February 19th and 20th at Oracle headquarters over there. So really looking forward to everything that's to come.
So, actually, you are a media or event company of some kind, a professional network. I mean, so it's actually going to be an interesting position for you to come in, with um, your data and AI hat on, and then on the flip side, you have a business here that's very much similar to the attendees that'll be there. So that's I didn't really connect the dots on that one. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the diversity in algorithms? I think I understand it, but it would be great if you could explain it further.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that really affect this. I mean, one, easy use case would be customer segmentation, for example. Like, if you don't do it correctly and the data lacks diversity on the back end, you're going to miss a lot of your customers, right? And that's going to be bad for your brand. For recruiting, I mean, it's super important, because really you can have bias in your algorithms where you're going to miss a whole heap of candidates that might have been good for your company. And then another use case that people would know about is credit scoring. And I'm sure you've heard all these kind of really scary stories about that, where people are actually not able to get a loan because there's some sort of a bias in there, right? So those are kind of just some really simple use cases, but that is just great examples of how there is like bias. If there is bias in data and algorithms, it could really affect people's lives,
Oh,
and businesses too, not just individuals, but like can affect your business in a really negative way too. So it's very important to address it.
no, I'm so glad I asked that question because I mean that's huge. If you, I mean, obviously it's huge, but because one is the huge amounts of data, but then we rely on data to make these decisions. There's no like, let me dig a little. No, that's what the data says. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I get that. I really that's really important. So,
Yeah, and then healthcare too, if you think about that, that is like really where I feel like it's the most critical, right? Because if you're at a doctor's office and they're relying on a model or an algorithm that has poor data, that could literally, you can cut off the wrong limb or something. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's really it's very important to think about.
it's life critical.
Yes, for sure,
It's
for sure.
society critical. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really amazing. I'm so glad you're doing it. Um, so does that when so your other company formulated by it? I don't know if I got that right where I said it was a boutique marketing. Because are you doing this work of um, like what you just described with the algorithms for companies and helping with that?
No, so for the formulated by side of the business, so Data Science Salon, as I mentioned, it's a separate thing. It's a nonprofit community/media
Okay,
company. And you are right, it is. We are similar to O'Reilly, but we're just not anywhere near that size, and we don't publish media like actual books or
right.
anything. But we are, so we do have a similar audience. But the formulated buy side is where we actually help other companies, like like tools, for example, like, or smaller companies that would be large language model tools, NLP tools, ML ops tools that data scientists, machine learning engineers, and AI practitioners use. So we help them actually grow their own communities and such, and pretty much help them anywhere from starting from scratch, like from, if it's a serious pre-seed or up to series A companies, we help them with all their marketing stack, just to help them fill the top of the funnel with the right personas and the right messaging. And if it's IBM or O'Reilly Media, we've actually, before the pandemic, we ran all of like JupyterCon and a lot of events actually for O'Reilly Media. And creating everything from the content to like actually executing it to digital strategy. Um, so so that could, and just to give you a couple different examples of how we work with companies on that side of the
Okay,
business. So, and
got it.
obviously we use data science a lot strategically to help our clients reach the people in the community, right? Because they are literally the people that they're trying to sell to.
This is very strategic. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So
Very
I just
niche
got,
though, you know what I mean? We're like probably one of five agencies that do
mm,
something super niche like this, but it works because we have a playbook and we know really what works and how to build this essential like pipeline that companies need, right?
mm-hmm.
To sell their
And
product essentially to the right people, right?
yeah, and that's actually getting more and more difficult as we know. So the fact that you're approaching it with that data first mindset is really critical. Well, okay, so you're running two companies at the same time. I don't care if if it's a nonprofit. It takes a lot of effort to build a community, keep the community, and host events all over, and work with these big companies. So you started your entrepreneurial journey at 16, and what sparked that early drive, and how has it shaped how you approach business today? And again, I saw a post of your family on LinkedIn, and I think you have a daughter. Do you have two children?
Two boys, yeah.
Oh, two boys. I was going to be like, I hope you have a girl to share this. But anyway, you are an inspiration for females. But tell us some more about the journey.
Thank you so much. Well, my journey, I'm not really, I feel like I'm definitely very different from my parents or where I come from. I come from, my family immigrated here from Moscow in 1994, and they immigrated to Silicon Valley. Right. So I feel like I was put into this really sweet spot of technology, and I was always very curious about technology. And my father got me a Mac. This was probably, I think it was 1995. And then shortly after eBay came out, and I just got really curious about, this platform. And I was going to school, and the school that I was going to was very, focused on tech. I think, as you can imagine, a lot of Bay Area education was
Yeah.
very leaned towards tech heavy stuff. That's why there was a lot of startups that were coming out of there. So I think that's why I got really curious. And then I basically just did research, and I found, that's when the internet first came out, but you could really find anybody. And I found a supplier in China to buy shoes and bags from and resell them here. And that was my store. I had an eBay store for quite a few years. And my father used to help me ship these things to people. And then I saved a bunch of money because he didn't give me any money, that I made. So which is good, I think, like
Yeah. Right. Right.
I had a credit card with like a $500 limit or something,
Hmm.
So, but I think that's really good because that definitely made me more savvy with finances and such at a very young age. And then, I paid with that for college. And then shortly after, I started another company because I just was more curious about how can we do other things. Or that's when MySpace came out, and I was like, oh, you can really build like something like cool like that, like a community. So all of my background was really community focused, to be frank, like instead other than the eBay thing. But that was
Hmm.
also community, because then you have people that buy the same thing, like they come back and buy from you, right? So you have to build
Hmm.
community there. So I feel like any kind of thing that you're trying to do or build, and that's the question that you asked about what I learned, is really like like relationships and community are really key to any kind of anything that you're doing. So I feel like go build those first, and then go
Yeah.
build the products, and then you could really scale it and such. So that's really kind of what I learned throughout my journey.
So this is a very, I mean, one, again, just that you approached a community first is fascinating because even in an industry which I've been involved in my whole career, which is media and events, right? Media and events, B2B. You would think events, right? And the way they have, and that's changing now, but you're either a media company that does events or you're an event organizer who doesn't do media. It's very it's always confused me. I'm like, because with media, right? You're creating information and providing it to help people do their jobs better, make better decisions. Um, it's the information economy, but that allows you to build more of a trusted. community because they keep going to you and they trust you, and so then you have a better marketable database to go after for the event. The events industry went product first. We are renting space. Here's our space. Here's our real estate. Here's the name of the trade show. We're going to go sell our booths. And every year we're going to keep repeating the same thing over, which is, well, we got to go get our attendees, our registrants, our the people to come into the show floor. And it was, to me, the most inefficient, like the churn on that was about 70%. Like that
Right.
was not an unnormal thing. Again, that's changing, but um, it's not often that I hear someone talk about actually thinking of community first versus product, but that's really smart. Um, so you've had well, have you ever failed at a startup?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. Like ForSync was not a success. We went head to head with Dropbox, and that was not successful.
Okay.
So that was a fail for sure. But I learned a lot. I built a team and everything, and then I was able to rehire a lot of those folks when I started my next company, Pasari. So, but yes, I mean, definitely failed. I tried to do some fashion blogging too, right after I had my exit with Pasari and failed at that. Not that I failed, but I just kind of was scared to do it. Like I was
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
'cause I feel like to do that, you really have to be vulnerable, right? And like open about your life. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. So I think that's kind of a fail too. But yeah, definitely, I feel like you have to fail to reach your successes because you really learn a lot from failures. And I try to fail as fast as possible, but I still fail every day, even with small things, right? Or with my kids and stuff like that. I
Oh,
feel like it's important because you learn from that.
yeah. Wait till they turn 18 and they go to college, and you're sitting there. You're like, okay, this phase of my life is over. Let me just go look back and think about all the dumb things I did. So yeah, it's my I only have one and she's 19 and she's actually at the University of Miami. And I
Cool.
thought for sure when she went, I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna have this time with my husband. I don't have to cook dinner. I thought this was gonna be wonderful. I didn't leave bed for a month. I was so
Mm.
depressed. I missed her so much, even though she's just in
Aw.
Miami. But I think I missed her, but I also think for me, it was like an end of an era. Like it was done.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I
that
hear.
was
That's like a whole new thing, right? Like the empty nester. So how do you feel now? How was that last year or was this recent?
she went, yeah, last year. So now she's in her second year. I feel so one is she calls me every single day and gets
Oh.
mad at me when I'm like, I can't talk right now. So we're actually we were always very close, but it's definitely changed and it's more fun, to be honest. Um, she's you know, sending me photos of her learning how to, teaching herself how to make pasta. Like this kid didn't boil her own water before she left. So she's neat now because she has to share an apartment with roommates, and she was such a slob before. So I'm like watching this evolution.
So I guess
Um,
they learn all that stuff later anyways, right?
they do, and it's actually makes you say. So all of those weeks I was beating myself up, like I shouldn't have done that, or what if then I'm like, okay, actually, I did do good. Like she is, she's doing the things that I was trying to help her to figure out, and she just didn't do it when she was living with me. So yeah, it's great. It's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of it, even though mine are so small right now.
Yeah.
I'm still enjoying everything.
Yeah, no, definitely enjoy because it goes super fast. Um, okay, so many business leaders we see it all over the place, and there's a study out there, and Gartner did, where 86% of CEOs know that AI in particular. I'll just say there's no AI without data, a sound data strategy, but that they know it's going to have a significant impact on top and bottom line results, customer experience, everything over the next 3 years. But that same, maybe it's 86, that same 86% don't know where to start. And I hear this all the time at the CEO level. It's so big, it's so complex. And, and a lot of these companies that you'll meet at Revved Up don't have data science teams or data science departments. They're just starting this. Um, but based on your experience with your clients and your knowledge of and in your community, what are the most common mistakes you see when they do start the journey um, to either one become data driven, or two take that they're at, like, let's say there's a scale of 1 to 10 of data maturity, they're at a 5 and they're like, okay, I got to take that next leap, and that moves me into AI.
Yeah, well, I think what you said just right now said that a lot of them, most of them don't have a data science team or anything like that. So essentially, they would have to get that up first and set that up first. Because if you don't have anything like that, if you actually don't have clean data or anything, you can't have an AI, a successful
Right.
AI strategy. So you have to get that going first, but maybe you have to look at your business and see if that's the right strategy, because it's not for every business. Like, I mean,
Right.
there's certain businesses that this isn't going to work for, right? Like, so I think you really have to look at the business and see, like, sometimes we even hear from huge enterprises where it doesn't make sense to go the Gen AI way because it's still more efficient the old way, right?
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
doesn't always make sense. So you really have to look at a lot of those things. Like, do you already have a strategy? Do you have clean data? Do you need a strategy? Right, like, so like that's what you should be looking at before you really, I know there's a lot of craze and everything going on right now because everybody thinks they need it, but essentially not everybody does. I think
Yeah,
what, like, probably more than half of the people are not going to need an AI strategy right at this moment.
oh, that's interesting. More than half you think will not need
Yeah,
one.
we actually did we did our own data science salon survey last year, and it was like 90% of people were doing it, and then at the end of the year it was only about 40% of them that ended up actually, after looking at everything, like, doing the strategy, because they just didn't need, like, they actually didn't make sense for them when it came to the bottom line.
Do you have any sense yourself about what characteristics would help someone, or what questions they should be asking to decide or try to determine, do we need one or not?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, like you said, like, do we already have data, right? Like, how is this? Because there's a lot of cost that goes with AI strategy. Because I mean, just to use the GP, use, and like all the tools that run in the cloud, it's really expensive. So I think you have to really compare to what setup you have now, and that's what we've seen is really like, is it going to be saving you money? Is it going to be more efficient, or is it going to be more expensive, right? So that's the kind of things that you should definitely look at. But there's definitely some lists I could share with you after that. There's like literally checklists that you could go through, like yes or
Yeah.
no, to determine if you really need to look at this from like an executive business perspective. And also depends how big your company is, right? Sometimes if you're a startup, like your whole startup is an AI product or it's all AI, right? But if it's something like, if you have like a service based company or something like that, if it's construction, right? There's not going to be a lot of AI right now you can use for your company,
Well, right. Okay, that's a
right?
great example.
So
Like, construction probably does not need an AI strategy.
not right now, no,
Right.
because there's just not enough things like. But I think essentially when there's drones going to paint buildings and things, you might think about that. But right
Hmm.
now, that's probably 5 years away, 5 to 10 years
Yeah.
away.
For the media industry, it's actually an event, and I would say anybody who's got content and data from that content, the behavioral data and the consumption data, um, which then leads to data, what you have about your customers, your first party data, purchase intent. I actually do. They must be thinking about it right now because, one, they're already making deals with these AI platforms, right? The big guys, Time, Axel Springer, Wall Street
Hmm.
Journal, the list goes on. And that's causing a lot of controversy for lots of different reasons. And the second is you then have the lawsuits that are taking place, New York Times, for example. So that's a big play. Third is they actually are sitting on a huge amount of data that, if
Yeah.
actually done correctly, could generate significant value for the business, for customers, new revenue streams, everything. So th- this industry is actually in a pretty urgent place of trying to figure this out. And one, there are a lot of the issue is there are a lot of companies that have been sitting on this data, unified data, single source of truth, data lake, data warehouse strategy, so I can actually apples to apples comparisons and my data can actually be curated and I can actually create those algorithms and get those insights, they've not done anything. And to me, those that are here that are just starting to get to what that part, like, it may be too late for them.
Yeah,
It yeah.
they would have to start now. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's going to be other. Yeah, like it's true.
And I think I see, you mentioned you must have this team in place. And I saw this happen with first party data, which is a little bit more mainstream now, but a couple of years ago it was a big buzzword, is the silver coins over here. They know they have the data. It's happening. But
Yes.
to get to the silver coin, you've got, like, you can't just go A to Z. There's like some steps in between. So, maybe one of the things that will materialize out of, back in February is helping come up with a framework for them to actually, like, figure out how they can do it and in a way that they can afford. Um, so you you are working with big companies like AWS and IBM, and with the whole marketing funnel, marketing strategies, and that drive revenue, not just at the vanity metrics. What How are you tracking that with marketing's hard because there's so many touch points, there's so many things that influence the buyer journey. Now they're saying it's like 17 to 20 touch points before you get a conversion. How do you approach that, in terms of being able to say, okay, this marketing activity or campaign or flow resulted in X number of dollars in revenue?
Yeah, so that is, I mean, it is difficult. It depends if that's what the goal is, right? Because, for example, if we're working with IBM, that's not revenue based for them. For them, it's more about like how many people came to the event, right? Maybe it is revenue based later, but we don't see that on our side. For the smaller companies, there is definitely RevOps that we put together because we do have a funnel that goes, just everybody. For example, we have a webinar, everybody comes, and then we funnel them into sales and marketing qualified leads, right? And then they go basically into personalized communications and campaigns after that. And that leads to revenue because if you close, from say SQLs, like let's say we had 1,000, we had 70 SQLs, and then we closed like 10 of those, right? That would depends on how much your product costs. That
Hmm.
would be
Hmm.
essentially transferable into revenue, which I love that about B2B marketing because you could track that through the tools like HubSpot and Salesforce very quite easily of how many touch points that person had before they became MQL and SQL and all of those things, right? How many webinars did they attend? How many events or how many did they come to your booth? Did they come to your website? Did they do a demo? All of those things. So uh, basically, that's how we track it. Back
You
to
know,
revenue.
yeah, there's a way, when, again, putting my operator hat on with events, running them and trying to get the right attendees in the room, which is very difficult, actually. The higher up you're going, the harder it is. But I would love to see a multi-touch attribution model that led to the desired revenue outcome, and then be able to say, okay, next time we run this event, or next time we're trying to do this, or next time we're trying to push people that are going to, we like the highest conversion from top of funnel to bottom, that segment is going to get this type of integrated multi-touch marketing campaign, because we know with that type, that's what works the best, so that you could, like, rinse, lather, repeat. Do you help your customers do that?
No, we don't quite go that deeply into tracking like that. I mean, maybe someday we will. We're more community based, remember? So we're more
Okay.
relationship focused versus that kind of thing where it's going to
Okay.
be more human in the loop here for us versus like that kind of deep of marketing. Cause I do feel like essentially you do have to give it to a human, like let's
Hmm.
say when it becomes an SQ, like depends how far the funnel it is, right? To convert it, I feel like you do still need that person versus a bunch more marketing. Like you need to
Yeah.
get them on the phone, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
someday,
Yeah.
I'm sure someday there's going to be an AI that could talk to them and close them, but I don't think we're going to be there for quite some time because the kind of products that we work on are quite expensive and quite technical, right?
Oh yeah,
So
no,
like,
yeah, I don't think AI should, especially in an IBM or whatever in scenario, do the actual sale, but to replicate what worked to got a high likelihood of closing target into the hands of a salesperson through the marketing campaign that works with that segment. But this actually leads to my next question because I read an article you wrote in Forbes where you talked about key metrics for B2B demand generation. And there are some metrics and that I like, and maybe in sales, I could call them leading or lagging, or this one is it's too. Who cares about that one? It's too late by the time it happens. What are the metrics that you feel are the most overlooked when, let's say, you have a new client and you're trying to educate them on how you're going to work with them, and that the metrics that are important to you to determine success?
I guess for us, it's always about, I mean, the biggest thing that we talk about when we talk about metrics, especially for smaller clients or startups, right, is really like quality versus quantity. So usually we talk really more about like, I mean, it depends. Like, let's say if we're with a startup and like they really need their first customer, we're really going to focus on like ABM here, right? We're going to really like focus all of our marketing campaigns specifically on these different companies that they're targeting.
Hmm.
Um, it's going to be less, it's going to be like 10 companies that we go after, right? But if it's a bigger client like IBM, they'll give us a list of like 1,000 companies and then we'll directly put them into campaigns, right? And target them. But we usually still go back to like the quality of the leads, and that's a big thing that we talk about when it comes to metrics and how we work with customers, right? Because we really want to see those deals close versus like a bunch of leads and things like that.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, because we guarantee, like we actually guarantee that we'll get you a certain amount of certain like SQLs or deals. So like for us it's very like, critical to track, not only track the people, but also like figure out how to like really build those relationships with those companies.
Okay.
Because essentially, like we could do all the AI and all of these things that we could do, but essentially, like it does take a personal touch to close a deal. So that's what I
Yeah.
always go back to, and that's what we talk about a lot because I'm part of some of these B2B marketing groups, and we talk a lot about that. Like,
Hmm.
does it matter? Like, if you can actually meet a person and close a deal just by talking to them versus that you spend like $1,000 running like all these different campaigns and stuff and building models to attract this person. Um, like, which is more valuable?
Well, I think
What do
what
you
that
think? Like, how do you, I mean, because I feel like for me, like what I see and like when people actually talk to people and close those deals in person, and that is way like those like that's different than just closing something online or using AI to get that person to.
100%. And I mean, one is I think that's why events have not, I mean, are just, they're still flying high. I mean,
Yep,
there's no sign in sight of slowdown. Um, just, secondly, I just know from my own experience, I'm 10 times more likely to close somebody if I meet them in person than if I'm just doing,
exactly. Yes.
online, which we need to get salespeople back out, visiting customers. Um, and I also think there's so much noise online now that even if you did have something valuable to say to a customer who was in need, they're just gonna they may just not pay attention to it. It may not hit their inbox. They're getting inundated on LinkedIn. They don't look at your ads. So I think the in person is absolutely critical and a huge part of this. The other part, though, that's going to happen, I believe, is that because everyone's using AI now. Like I'm seeing people like we have an AI SDR solution. They didn't like the SDR approach before. They're definitely not going to like that now, right? Like they didn't like it before because the SDR was dialing for meetings, and it
Right.
wasn't about the customer. It was about it just, and they also didn't have enough time to even learn about, depth of business. I don't like being handed off to somebody. It just was a very uncomfortable process for the customer. So now we're saying we know that didn't work. Finally, it came to our senses, but now we're going to launch an SDR, AI powered SDR platform. So I have a bot answering these questions. So I think in person is going to become even more important because of that.
Yeah, and like a lot of people I know, like a lot of the senior folks, they will not talk to those things. Like they will basically block you if you try those. So I feel like it's really, sometimes you should not use that, because it's actually really, it'll kind of like block your opportunity with that client sometimes. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people are looking for more personalized experiences now, right? And the AI should help you do that, but not, I feel like that's not the right way to do it, right? Maybe for certain use cases, right? Maybe if like it's a simple use case, but definitely not like a long sales cycle.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't think that would be it.
yeah, I would be cautious about even if it's a shorter sales cycle, because you're right, you could, I mean, they want, if they block you is one thing, but there's another danger, which is what new algorithm are these email platforms going to come up with to say, oh, that looks like AI wrote it, so boom, you're not going to, hit the mailbox, and actually not only that, we're going to mark you as spam. I mean, there's so many dangers of being not real,
That's
you
already
know.
happened. I mean, I feel like that's, yeah, already started happening, because there's so much, and Google controls a lot of the inboxes.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that if you don't use Google's tools, like, or Google's AI tools in your emails, they will ding it. They will actually like put it in spam.
What?
So yeah, it's true. Yeah, like that's a big thing, because Google wants you to use their products to write this stuff. So that
Oh
is
my
something I
god.
talk about a lot, and I do educate a lot of people that if you don't use Google to write your chat, like your AI content, like for those kind of cases, use Google, because otherwise they will know that you use ChatGPT or any other models to do it. So
That's,
very smart. Yeah, they're very smart.
I mean, it's smart, but
But
it's
it's bad. It's
awful.
bad for us, because people don't know that, and then you wondering like, okay, nobody's getting my emails anymore, and what's happening, right? So, but that kind of stuff is happening already. And like people are not, there's a lot of people that are not getting their emails delivered anymore. There's a lot of businesses, like I'm sure you've heard that tech has definitely been affected by.
Hugely.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean,
Sales are harder. Like people are not getting through. Like you have to pick
oh,
up the
I
phone.
definitely know for myself. I mean, and I'm a little tiny itty bitty, like I do not email a lot, but there's a huge difference between our deliverability,
Right.
from 6 months ago to now. And we're like trying to figure it out. And I purposely don't use Google. Um, and I am on Google Apps, but that Gemma, I'm like, no, I already have this, because it's like, how many subscriptions to this can you have?
Yeah.
And wow, that is really interesting. I did not know that.
Well, I mean, that makes sense though, because they want to be the top player, and they want to keep everybody in their own ecosystem. So.
Yeah, we have to play fair though. Who
Yeah,
said life was
I agree.
fair?
I agree with you, but yeah, I feel like it's been kind of monopoly. Like, who else? Like, there's nobody else like you can run ads through. Like,
Yeah.
they own the SEO, all of that stuff but it's all changing, so they have to change with it, right? Like,
Mhm.
it has
Mhm.
to change, evolve. It's evolving. It's not. I mean, I would say it's evolving. That's a good way to put it.
All right. Well, I'll have to look into that. Um, so you're a strong advocate for women in tech and diversity in tech. Um, and actually there's been this trend, I've been reading about it, where DEI initiatives are getting either squashed or reduced, like it's lost the importance at some actually very large companies. Have you been able to see diversity initiatives directly impact business innovation and revenue growth, or do you have an example? But,
Yeah, I mean, some examples are with some of the companies that we've worked with on specifically on the data science salon side, like Netflix and Hulu. Some of those companies for sure, they've had some really great initiatives. Salesforce also. I think, I mean, like Mark Benioff was one of the first people to actually implement, like, like not a law, but like they have to have certain percentage of women on, just hired all in general, and that leads to them being successful, and being on like the best place to work for many years, for example, right? Because they do have that right diversity. But we have seen a lot of cuts with this in tech, but there's still a lot of companies that are doing, like, they still have those initiatives, and it's still, it is, as I mentioned, it's very important, because it goes essentially down back to the data, and the team that, like, even the data team, like if you just have one kind of person on that team and it's not a diverse team, then there's not going to be as many ideas, or they're not, like, some of the problems are not going to be solved in a certain way that other people might have thought about them, right? So
Hmm.
it's very important to diversify just in general, even without these like specific funds and initiatives. I think that people are, or teams are, thinking more diversely. That's what we're seeing, at least in data teams and such. We're seeing a lot more women, even even more than a decade ago when I got into the space, which is really cool for us to see that.
It starts at the education level, actually, if you think about it, and how girls are somehow trained that they're bad at math. I thought I was terrible at math. It turns out I'm like a data junkie, and I have to actually untrain my brain from that I can't do it, and even at my age. But I they need to deal with that part in school, but they also there. I was just visiting with the president of Ringling College of Art and Design, and Larry Thompson, and they these are artists. Like these are
Mhm.
they're doing a lot with digital. So it's not like it's very expansive. It's very forward thinking. It's a very nimble art school, and they actually get a huge number of their students end up working for like films and
Cool.
Pixar, and they win like Oscars. So it's just a very talented bunch of students. But this AI thing has them like terrified and or pissed, that don't steal my art. So what they did was really smart, and it's just their first year doing it. But they actually now have an AI certification program that is helping students learn the ethical use of AI, how to utilize AI in if you go to work for somebody. Um, and there's a third part to it, which is not, I'm not remembering it. But the point is that they actually literally just said, okay, yeah, I can understand that you're fearful. I understand that you feel threatened. It's if you don't want it to take your job, here's what we're going to do to help you. And I think actually the brilliance of that is not just that it helps them get rid of the fear, and there are a lot of females in the school too, obviously, predominantly female, and it actually gives them a leg up. I mean, think about an employer talking, hiring a designer, and this person goes, "Hey, I know I'm certified in how to, ethically use AI. So I'm a trustworthy AI user in the business. I know how to protect our intellectual property, and I know how to use it in cases where it's appropriate to do
Right.
something faster." So, it's just something I wanted to share because I just learned about it the other day and I thought it was really interesting. And
Cool.
schools
Yeah,
need to.
there's a few like initiatives like that around, which I think are great, because I feel like that's education. It's all about education, like you said, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't matter where you are, in your journey or what you're doing, but education is just knowing how to use AI to help you be more successful, whatever you're doing, right? Like
absolutely.
and I think that's very useful. It should be like free for people to do too.
Well,
You
absolutely.
know.
It's the benefit for everybody. This is a very
Mhm.
big. It's like the internet's free for everybody still, for most part.
Exactly. I mean, it's pretty much, yeah. Like, and I feel like essentially those things will be free. Like
Yeah.
they'll have to be.
We're actually just on that note of, and I touched on it earlier. One interesting angle that we're going to be talking about in February, but I've been thinking about a lot is this idea that the argument that the data that's being culled and scraped off the internet to go feed to feed the engines, the AI platforms, which is content from other sites. They utilize this construct that, well, it's free for other people, so why isn't it free for us? It's not, it's free for people to use to serve another purpose.
Right.
And I was getting ready this morning. I was like, well, it's different, actually. It's like Taylor Swift doesn't let you take a tooth photo and put it somewhere else. That's her intellectual property, but it's available for everyone to see. It's the same thing with the content part. Like I could be using content to help me write a research paper. I'm not selling it. I'm not making money off of it, right? I'm not creating
Right.
another product that could not exist without it. And I think that's going to be a big crux of this IP fight that's going on right now. Who owns what and
Yeah.
who should get paid for what? So
Yeah, no, it's hard, but I mean, I feel like they went through this with music already, right?
yeah.
Like, so I feel like they kind of have ways to make it work. So I think they'll kind of do something similar with this too, where it's just people are gonna, I mean, unfortunately, artists are just gonna make a lot less money because you're gonna have to split it up like between a bunch, like, do you know what I mean? Then it shrinks because it's like 20 people that touched a piece of content or something, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
so I feel
Mhm.
like it's actually like it's not going to be good for artists, but I feel like you can have more exposure. And I feel like that's what's happened with a lot of musicians, you know, like they're not Taylor Swift is one
Yeah,
out of
right.
like all, you know, but a lot of them, like even like the bigger ones, like The Weeknd, for example, like he's not making like there's 20 people per like one song. It takes like 20 people to produce, so he only makes that little tiny bit. And most of these
Oh.
artists make money from traveling and actually doing shows. So I think that's going to be something like again something similar with like artists or writers that are really like have that you know what I mean, like I think
Mhm.
something like that will have to happen where there will be maybe like some kind of even we can use some kind of a token like you know the
Mhm.
web3 like there will be something that comes because there it is I feel like it's very controversial, right? Like
Yeah.
because the way a person uses that content is different than the way AI uses it.
I just read, and I'll share it with you after we finish. It was actually a brilliant LinkedIn post. I've actually never come across this person before, but he described three ways that, and he says I'm describing it so a 5-year-old can understand. But he described the three phases where this music type revenue model could work.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the pros and cons at the beginning and the middle and the end. And the way he describes the difference between the phases is like he's wow, I didn't even think about that. But and they're really truly are um, pros and cons. And it really it's the most difficult one, but the one that would be the most lucrative is the third phase where the content's being consumed
Yeah.
because then you actually have value. There's value there, right? So anyway, I'll share it with you.
Yeah, I love
Um,
this kind of stuff. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's super interesting because it's new. They haven't figured it out yet.
yep,
So.
absolutely. So we're running out of time, and so I guess the my last question is just what kind of advice would you give to business leaders who are just starting to leverage data science and AI for revenue growth? So trying to get more revenue.
Gosh, that is I mean, I feel like for revenue growth it's definitely a great tool because like essentially if you are a small business, you can now use AI or just simple tools like ChatGPT to make your business more efficient, for example, right? So you can literally just automate a lot of things and get rid of some employees, for example, right? So you don't need as many people on your team. So I
Hmm.
mean, you
Hmm.
could do like there's essentially it depends what you want to do, but you can automate anything like tasks from reporting, for marketing, for content creation, right? So I feel like as a smaller business owner, just this, like it's definitely something that's going to help you make more money. Like it's
Yeah.
not gonna like it's gonna be just a game changer if you can actually use it. And essentially, we've this year, like our business is small, and we've even been able to make it more efficient this year. We got rid of half of the tools that we used to use. So we
Oh,
used
yeah.
to pay like 70 grand for tools. Now we're paying like under 50,000.
Wow.
So like, I mean, and that's because of AI again, right? So now we could just make everything more efficient, more lean and better because it's more accurate.
Hmm.
Like, because
Hmm.
we could just, you know what I mean? If you have a question or especially with formulas and marketing and those like models that you were talking about attribution, that's much easier to like to put up now or spin up now that we have AI for
Hmm.
marketing people, you know, especially not like I'm not a technical person, but we do have technical people on our team that do. We've been creating agents, for example, we've been using for quite some time. AI agents, we've had them for years. But again, now anybody could do it, right?
Yeah.
So
Well.
that's what the cool thing is. Yeah. I mean, you can, like you said, there's educational like things that people are spinning up to help business people. And I think that's sounds like H2K Labs is Is that you're probably going to be talking about that and what kind of education is available to help people with those things, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're even spinning up three AI agents to roll out at the event just to show,
Oh, cool. I'm excited to see
yeah,
that.
just to show these executives, here are ways that you can lighten up your tech stack because they have very heavy tech stacks for events and media. And instead of having this huge matchmaking application, they got to like have an AI. You have an AI agent for matchmaking and
Right.
networking. You want to get survey data about how good the speakers are or not? There's a survey AI agent they can use, and you're getting actually much better data because of the free flow of the content, the unstructured content, not like check this box, checks that. So, yeah, so I'm excited about that. It'll be fun.
Cool.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I'd love for people to know how to get in touch with you in two ways. So, for DataScience.Salon, is membership complimentary or is there a fee to join?
Yeah, there's no fee to join. It's all free. So the best thing to do is just subscribe to our newsletter, and then you'll get everything. And then, yeah, the only things we charge for are our events for the
Okay.
community, and not all of them, just the main flagship events that we have. But all the meetups and everything else is free.
Awesome. And then for your business formulated by LinkedIn, best way to contact you?
Yeah, just reach out to me directly. We're a boutique agency, like most of our business is referral, as you know. So it's, if you're looking to build your own community in the technical space, definitely reach out to us.
Awesome. Well, terrific. Well, you've been a terrific guest. This has been so interesting. I actually learned a ton. I'm sure the audience has as well. So, with that, if you are a CEO or revenue critical C suite leader and you want to fuel enterprise growth using data, digital, and AI, come to Revved Up in February, February 25th through 27th. You can meet Anna and learn a ton more. And with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice being here, Heather.
Thanks so much.